Okay. Ready now?
Theodore, another 5 minutes to 8.
Okay, okay.
Brother Yu-chung?
Okay. Wandami Siado, may I have Siado's permission to start the talk?
Okay, we can start.
Wandami Siado, and good evening, everyone. Good morning for everyone in the Western Hemisphere. Welcome to the lesson number 67 on Visuddhimagga, patisambhidamagga, and commentaries. Today's session is scheduled to last 2 hours, with 1.5 hours on coursework and remaining 30 minutes on Q&A. I am Brother Yu-chung. I am the meeting co-host who will be helping Siado and everyone in today's session. May we invite Siado to start the teaching, and may we invite the interpreter Bantes to start the translation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Siado?
Siado, can you hear us?
Brother Yu-chung?
Yeah.
Siado? So maybe we just wait for a while. I text
Okay.
Siado.
All right.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay. Connection problem. Okay, now we can start.
Yes.
18 great insights. So we have already mentioned many different types of vipassana. Even in the Samasana, we have many other types of insight knowledges. So that means many different way of approach to make our insight knowledge stronger and clearer. Today we are going to talk about 18 great insights. In Pali we call Mahavipassana. So we have 18. These 18 great insights are enumerated as follows. Anicca-nupassana, contemplation of impermanence. The yogi remove the wrong perceptions of permanent. So since we have already talked about anicca many times in many different ways, even we have already talked about 10 definitions of anicca when we talk about 42. So there are many different contemplation of anicca. When we have very strong perceptions of anicca, then we can also remove the perceptions of permanent. Dukkha nupassana, contemplation of suffering. The yogi removes the wrong perceptions of pleasure. We also have already mentioned 25 different definitions of dukkha when we explained 40 toes. So these are common in Buddha teaching. We have already known anicca, dukkha, anatta. So the next contemplation will be anatta nupassana, contemplation of non-self. So we can contemplate non-self. Yogi removes the wrong perceptions of self, atta. So since we have already explained 5 different definitions of anatta, then you have already known many different things about anatta also. So actually many of practice, even in Arupa Sadhaka, we also have already mentioned Ditthi Ukatana. To overcome wrong view, we have to contemplate as anatta. So these anicca, dukkha, anatta are very common in Buddha teaching. Also, we can also find many different contemplations of anicca, dukkha, anatta in many different sources. And now 4, nibbida nupassana, contemplations of disenchantment. Due to clear seeing of permanent, etc. Here, etc. means sovereign non-self. The yogi repeatedly contemplates the formations, sankharas, with disenchantment, thereby removing attachment and delight, nandi. So the Pali word nandi will be a little bit new to you, but we also have to introduce the meaning of nandi. When we study Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, they also mention nandi raga sahagata. Actually, this is also a kind of attachment. That is why when we have the nature, when we have known the nature of disenchantment, that we may not have any attachment to formations. So when we talk about formation also, it will be very wide. For example, all nama-rupas are also formations. Sometimes when we talk about formation aggregates, it also can be mental factors. But here it refers to all types of nama-rupas. They are called sankharas. Now we have number 5, viraga nupassana. The yogi sees the impermanent, suffering, non-nature of formations, become repulsed by them, repeatedly see them as undesirable, thereby removes factions. Okay, in this case, we also have to elaborate a few more according to explanation here in the note. Viraga nupassana is the insight knowledge arising from clearly seeing formations, dissolution as something repulsive and disenchanting. Okay, here we already mentioned arising. So that kind of insight knowledge will arise after seeing or by seeing the dissolutions of formations. Now we also see as a repulsive and disenchanting. By repeatedly observing with insight that dissolution characteristics of formations, factions is temporarily suppressed. Datanga Pahana. Okay, here we have to talk about Datanga Pahana. That means we can subside or suppress or substitute by insight knowledge. That means we may have many other perceptions or wrong view or anything. All the things will be substitutes by insight knowledges. Viraga nupassana also refer to the noble path knowledge that fully eradicates raga by taking nibbana as its object. So here we also talk about viraga nupassana as nibbana. or noble paths. So that means it also can be samudcheda, totally eradication. So when we can eradicate totally, then when we can eradicate raga totally, this is called samudcheda pahana. This also can be referred to Viraganupassana. We have to move the next one. Nirodhanupassana, contemplation of cessation. Observing the continuous momentary cessation of formation, the yogi repeatedly contemplate dissolutions, removing the perceptions of their arising samudaya. So that means when we can practice only dissolutions, then we can neglect or we can forget about samudaya, the arising. So Nirodhanupassana also denotes temporary separation of defilements by repeatedly observing momentary cessation. We say temporary. This is also similar to Dhatanga Pahana. The father referred to noble path, which completely eradicates defilements by realizing Nibbana, also same to previous one. Samudcheda Pahana. Okay, the main thing is Nirodha also cessation. When all the Namarupa seeds, or if we just see only cessation or dissolution or burden away, then we may not know any nature of arising. This is also a little bit higher inside knowledge. Now we have number 7. Parinissanupassana, contemplation of relinquishment. The yogi abandons clinging to future existences and misconceptions about permanence by repeatedly contemplating non-attachment to formations, leading to release and relinquishment. So here, we also have to understand parinissagga, relinquishment. Of course, if we can relinquish all the formations, attachment to formations, then there's also higher attainment. That's what we call relinquishment. This is also actually higher inside knowledge or higher attainment. 8. Khayanupassana. Contemplation of destruction. Observing continual momentary destruction, the yogi remove wrong perceptions of solidity or continuity, kanasanya, in mental and material phenomena, seeing only ultimate reality breaking apart incessantly. Okay, here we also see momentary destruction. This is also very common Pali words in Buddha teaching. So when we say momentary, that means we also have to know every single mind moment, arising state, theta stage, or apparition stage. Then we also have to know the arising and passing of rupas in 3 stages: arising, status, and apparition stage. Now that there's a continuity or solidity or continuity. Actually, continuity means sanadikana. Okay, sanadikana means mental process or the process of rupas. So when we can break down the continuity compactness, we can also know Khayanupassana. Then after seeing that, of course, we can know they are momentary arising and apparition. They are arising as a series. Then our perceptions of anicca, dukkha, anatta will be obvious. Now, number 9, Vayanupassana. Contemplation of passing away. Repeatedly observing the passing away and dissolutions of formation, the yogi removes craving dana that binds wholesome and unwholesome karma formations, So we also use the Pali word vaya. Actually, vaya also a kind of passing away. But here also mentioned removing craving dana that binds wholesome and unwholesome formations. In Pali we call ayuhana. Ayuhana means formations. So we have both wholesome formations and unwholesome formations. Attachment will bind ourselves to wholesome and unwholesome. That is why when we can contemplate Vayanupassana, we can also overcome that type of attachment dana. The Vibharinamanupassana, contemplations of change. Repeatedly contemplating decay and aging death of formation, the yogi removes the wrong view or wrong perceptions of stability or lastingness, duvasanya. If we know momentary arising and passing away, of course, we can understand there's no stability, no lastingness. So by understanding momentary arising and passing, we can also overcome duvasanya naturally. Then 11, Animitanupassana, cycleless contemplation. Actually, later we also have to talk about Animitanupassana again. Throw insights into impermanent. Okay, here I have already used the English word, impermanent, anicca. Anicca and Animitanupassana are actually the same. The yogi removes the false perceptions of sign or conceptual level, nimitta, that mistakenly impose solidity on the continuous mental material phenomena. Of course, here I already mentioned continuous mental material because I'll say kana, competitiveness. So when we can break down all the competitiveness, we can know the nature of anicca very clearly, especially when we can break down continuity, competitiveness. That's why we can also say this Animitanupassana. Then 12, Apanihitanupassana, contemplations of desirelessness. So that means throw insights into suffering, clearly seeing nothing desirable. The yogi removes yearning, here, paniti, dana, for pleasure and happiness. Of course, if we can know the suffering, we may not have attachment to any pleasure or happiness. We know they are momentary arising and passing away. So apanihita and suffering, be careful. This is the one pair. Then another one, sunyata, contemplations of emptiness. So you have already knowledge about sunyata. Maybe you may know different form, different interpretations, or different understanding. But now, through clearly perceiving the non-self, anatta, nature of formation, the yogi removes attachments or misconceptions about self and abhinivisa. So when we say, whenever we talk about sunyata, we have to understand non-self. These two are anatta and anatta. These two are the same. Actually, we have already mentioned sunyata when we are talking about 5 different interpretations of anatta among the 40 toes. Then we have 14. Adipanya Dhamma Vipassana, superior wisdom insight. This is very clear. Clearly seeing the emptiness of formations regarding impermanent, also regarding permanent, pleasure, and self. The yogi removes the lewd attachment view, diluted attachment and views regarding essential nature, sara. So that means we can also overcome or remove attachment that associated with delusion and wrong view. Although the wrong view also associated with delusion. Now we may not know any essential nature in the formations. So later we also have to talk about Adipanya Vipassana again. 18, correct insight, no, 15, the next one. 𝐸𝐻𝐵uddhañāṇadassana, knowledge and vision, things as they really are. This is also very common Pali words in Buddha's teaching. 𝐸𝐻𝐵uddhañāṇadassanavisuddhi. Seeing clearly name and form. Okay, here in this case, we can also say mentality and materialities. Along with their causal relationship and true characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, and the yogi removes deluded misunderstandings, samoha, binivesa, about past existences and external creators. So that means when we can know nama, rupa, and their causes. So we have already talked about cause apprehending knowledge, or the knowledge of cause apprehending, paccaya-parijñāna. Also, we have already talked about dependent origination, cause and effect relationship. At the time, we also have already mentioned different types of doubt about the past, present, and future. So we can also overcome all types of doubt. We also can overcome doubt about the past. That means there can be past causes. There can be avidya, tanha, sankhara, karma, and so on. So we have already know causal relationship. We may not have any delusions or misunderstanding of past and external creators. We have already know the producing causes and the supporting causes of life. Now 16, Arinavanupassana, contemplation of danger. Clearly seeing danger inherent in all formations. They are fragile and unstable nature. The yogi removes craving, alayatana, falsely seeing refuge in formations. Actually, Arinava also can say as a fault. We can know the fault of Namarubats. We can also know the danger of Namarubats. This is also called Arinavanupassana. Later, we will talk about Arinavajnana again. That's why here I will not elaborate too much. Again, we have Patisambhidamagga, reflective contemplation. Reflecting repeatedly on the formations, true characteristics, impermanence, suffering, non-self. The yogi removes ignorance, avijja, which is opposite of reflective understanding. So this is also one of the inside knowledge. Later, we have to talk about Patisambhidamagga Vipassana in the future. And the last one, 18. Vipattanupassana, contemplation leading to out of samsara. Repeatedly contemplating cessation of suffering, observing with equanimity, sankarupakanyana, the yogi removes false beliefs and defilements, samyojana binivesa, rooted in sensual pleasure. So this also we have to explain in the future about sankarupakanyana. So these are 18 insight knowledges, great insight knowledges we call Mahavipassana. So some part of Vipassana can be found in Samasanajnana, we are talking about now. Some part of Vipassana can be found later in very high insight knowledge. But anyway, we also have to know all these 18 different types of great insight. In Pali, we call Mahavipassana. Okay, now here I should introduce the pair of same insight. So this is also very important. From time to time, when you read some Pali canons or commentary or any meditation manuals, then you can also find similar Pali words. For example, here one, contemplation of impermanence, Anicca-nupassana, and contemplation of signless, Animita-nupassana. Actually, these two are the same. Actually, I have already mentioned what's really called signless, right? No sign of permanence. We also have to know, we can also break down the compactness. Then number two, contemplation of suffering, dukkha-nupassana, and contemplation of undirected, abhinhita-nupassana. Actually, I have already mentioned abhinhita-nupassana before also. These two are the same. So that means whenever you learn animita-nupassana or animita samadhi or something, be careful. Similarly, abhinhita-nupassana, abhinhita samadhi, it will be the same. So three, contemplations of anatta-nupassana and contemplation of emptiness, sunyata-nupassana. So you can also find similar things, sunyata samadhi, abhinhita samadhi, animita samadhi. So when we trying to remember these three contemplation, whenever we talk about animita, anicca, abhinhita, dukkha, sunyata, anatta. So when you read suttas or commentary or meditation manual, be careful or try to remember these three pairs. It will be useful whenever you read any of Buddha teaching. For example, when you read Samyutta Nikaya, you can find many times about this kind of contemplation. Okay, now we have to talk about Arinava-nupassana. Actually, we have already mentioned Arinava-nupassana before, insight into phenomena of higher wisdom. So later also we have to elaborate a few more. So one more thing here. In the very beginning of Samassana Jnana, when we talk about Arinava-nupassana, there also we have already mentioned Asubha meditation. Living Asubha and dead Asubha. So all these are also called Arinava-nupassana. Adipanya Vipassana, insight into phenomena, higher knowledge, higher wisdom, is in fact a comprehensive form of Vipassana. So one more thing here. When we talk about Adipanya Vipassana, we also have to understand two different things as the basics. For example, Nama Rupa, number one. There are also Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. Number two, insight knowledge. That contemplate Nama Rupa as Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. Insight knowledge is also Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. We can also know they are rising and passing away very clearly. We may not have any perceptions of Atta, self or soul, or any creator. When we can overcome that kind of perceptions, this is called Adipanya Vipassana. Adi means higher. Panya means wisdom. Vipassana means insight knowledge. So when we have this kind of insight knowledge, that means our knowledge is very sharp and very strong. Okay, now we should move to Uddiyabhaya Jnana. Actually, in this part, Uddiyabhaya Jnana is very wide and very much in detail. So the knowledge of arising, in the very beginning, we should say Uddiyabhaya Jnana. Uddiyabhaya means the knowledge of arising and perishing. But when we are going to practice, we can divide into two different things. Uddaya, arising, the first step. After that, Vaya, perishing, the second step. After that, we can also do Uddaya Vaya, rising and perishing. When we study Mahasatipatthana Sutta, in many chapters, I think around 20 times, the Buddha mentioned in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, Samudaya Dhamma Nubasi, Vaya Dhammanubhasi, Timotya Vaya Dhammanubhasi. 3 types of anubhasi. So whenever we talk about Udayabhaya, try to remember this passage in Mahāsatipatthana Sutta. That is why in Mahāsatipatthana Sutta, the last part, Buddha mentioned many times, for example, internally, externally, both internally, externally, or similarly, rising, perishing, both rising and perishing. These are vipassana. Okay, now we have to talk about Udayabhaya Jnana. The yogi comes to understand in this way. Before arising, mentality, materiality, namarupa did not exist. Of course, we have already mentioned that one many times in this series of Dhamma talk. Its collections or totality was not present in any way. Even now, in its present arising form, it has not come from any already established collections of totality. Okay, if we say briefly, before arising, we don't have any preparation, any storage. When arising, also only 3 states: arising, straight up, back away. After that, also no more, no storage. Likewise, this presently cessation or season, mentality does not travel from one place to another or move to any specific directions or location. This one also clear. Because we have already mentioned these types of explanation in many part of Vipassana, even in Samasana Jnana. Before we talk about 42, we have already mentioned all the things. The next one, and then it was ceased. It does not remain stored or preserved in any form or locations as a collection of whole. Among these 3 types of present moment, here we also list out 3 types of present moment. I mean, duration present, atta paccuppanna. I have to elaborate 2 things about duration present, atta paccuppanna. Actually, we have already explained before, but you may forget. That's why I have to repeat. Atta paccuppanna means from present to death. That means rebirth to death. This is called duration present, atta paccuppanna. Actually, we have already talked about it in Arupasadaka. And also, sorry, Adana Rupasadaka. Adana breakiba, right? And anyway, duration present means from rebirth to death. Because the birth to death, every life we have birth moment, jati, also marana, death. All the past lives, all the future lives. Entire life is called atta paccuppanna. Continuity present, sandati paccuppanna. When we say sandati paccuppanna, that means the mental process. One mental process is called one sandati paccuppanna. Then similarly, when we talk about materialities, rupa. For example, we may have iron translucency. It will arise many times in the eyes. When one pass away, another one arises. When another one pass away, another one arises. As process. This is also called sandati paccuppanna, continuity present. Momentary present is shorter, khanna paccuppanna. Khanna paccuppanna means in the mental process, there is also mind moment. Every mind moment, there's a arising stage, theta stage, and a perishing stage. These 3 are called momentary. That's why khanna paccuppanna is shortest. Similarly, in the materialities, in every single kalapas, there's also arising stage, theta stage, perishing stage. They are called momentary present, khanna paccuppanna. In the stage of samasana jnana, comprehension knowledge, one must begin vipassana contemplation and mental application starting from level of duration present phenomena. That means we have already talked about duration present atta paccuppanna in samasana jnana. Then also we have already talked about khanna paccuppanna also, samadhi paccuppanna also. We have to see as a mental process. But mainly, here we just talk about duration present because we have to move the next stage. The next one. However, in the stage of knowledge, of arising and perishing, the next slide. In the state of the knowledge of arising and perishing, Uddiyabaya Jnana, one must apply vipassana contemplation and mental focus starting from continuity present. So one more thing here. In the case of samasana jnana, we start from adana, atana. Gradually, we make it faster and faster. Then when we can practice better, we can also know continuity, also momentary. But in the case of Uddiyabaya Jnana, you don't need to start from atta paccuppanna. You have to start from continuity present, sanati paccuppanna. That means you must know mental process. Treading insights progressively towards momentary present. That means we also have to know momentary present. That is why in this insight knowledge, we have to know Namarupas more in detail. We have to break down the completeness clearer. Because we have to know every single moment and their causes. Also, their causes arising and perishing. So since we have already mentioned 3 different types, here we also have to know arising stage, Udaya. We also have to know passing away or perishing state, Vaya. Then we also have Nirodha Nubasi. The next one. We have Upada Nirodha and also Anupada Nirodha. 2 different types of Nirodha. Defilements such as ignorance, avijja, craving, dana, clinging, upadana, persist throughout the entire cycle of existence of beings, remaining latent as anusaya dhatu, underlying tendency. As long as they have not yet been completely eradicated by their corresponding noble parts, Āriyamagga. The latent defilements continuously accompanies the stream of mental and physical existence. Okay, that means as long as we have defilements, we have power to produce the life. This is the first step we have to understand. That means we have many namas, and they are produced by these defilements. Then we also have rupas. So some rupas are produced by these defilements. That is why we also have to know the causes. Okay, we can also understand these defilements are the causes. But we have to move next one, Anupada Nirodha. So as long as there is a causes, there will be the effects. Although they arise and perish, they will arise again and again. In the case of Anupada Nirodha, the complete cessation, when the noble part eradicates very root anusaya nature, I have already mentioned the defilements of those defilements, right? Then those particular defilements cease in a way where they will never arise again in the future. This kind of absolute cessation is known as Anupada Nirodha, the complete cessation, or cessation of non-arising. Okay, now to elaborate Upada Nirodha and Anupada Nirodha. Upada Nirodha means after passing away, they will arise again because there is a latent tendency. There's the causes. Cause also just cease only short time. When they can arise anytime. When they arise, all the Kama Broju or Jita Broju, all the Namarupas can arise again. In the case of Anupada Nirodha, all the cause also see totally cut by Hada path and function knowledge. No more defilements. Similarly, all the aggregates also perish without any remainder because the cause is passed away already. No more cause, no more result. This is called Anupada Nirodha. Now we have to move 5 types of Nirodha, cessation. Tatanga Nirodha, the absence of defilements temporarily suppressed by Mahakusala. We can also understand like a substitution. This terms cessation through substitution or momentary suppression. So that means we substitute wholesome for unwholesome. That's called Tatanga Nirodha. So that means in our daily life, we may have unwholesome mind, but by doing samatha or vipassana or anything, we may have wholesome mind, then we can subside unwholesome mind for a while. This is called Tatanga, only temporary, not long time. Vikambana Nirodha, absence of defilement suppressed by Rupa Vajra and Arupa Vajra wholesome consciousnesses. That means 5 material or immaterial jhanas. This is also called cessation through suppression. Sometimes when we can enter into jhana, we can subside the defilements. But sometimes, this is also called Vikambana Nirodha, not totally cessation. Another one, Samucheda Nirodha, the absence of defilements completely eradicated by Ariya Magga, noble paths. This is a cessation through cutting off. This is totally cutting off. For example, when we contain Sotapatti Magga, we can also eradicate some lower defilements or gross defilements. Only very subtle defilements will remain. Then similarly, Sakadagami Magga will make defilements weaker. Anagami Magga will subside hatred and such a desire. Hada Magga will eradicate all types of defilements without remainder. This is called Samucheda Nirodha. So, 4. Patipassati Nirodha, the absence of defilements due to realizations of Ariya Phala fruition. This is the cessation through calming. The path knowledge already eradicate, then fruition knowledge also make all the defilements calm. That is also one example about path and fruition knowledge. Then how they eradicate defilements. For example, you are going to extinguish fire using the first pot of water. When you pour a big pot of water into the fireplace, then you can extinguish all the fire. No more burning charcoal, but there will be heat on the ground or around the area. When you pour second pot of water, no more heat remain. This passage means just calming down or tranquilizing. And Kana Bhanga Nirodha, the moment by moment cessation, the mental and physical phenomena, Tirajasika and Rupas, in each moment of dissolution. This is also momentary cessation. Okay, we have to combine all these 5 types of Nirodha. The next slide will be, among these five, Tatanga Nirodha, Vikambana Nirodha, and Kanabanga Nirodha are all categorized as Upada Nirodha. That means they will perish, but they will arise again. They will perish again, then arise again, perish again. They represent temporary cessation that allows for possible re-arising in the future if causes are not fully eliminated. This is the one thing. These forms of cessation do not include final nibbana. Okay, the next one, Samucheta Nirodha and Patipassati Nirodha are categorized as Anupada Nirodha. They represent final and irreversible cessation, where the defilements are completely and permanently destroyed, never to arise again. This is called Anupada Nirodha. So here we just introduce Upada and also Vaya. We can also say Vaya as a Nirodha. Upada Vaya and Anupada Vaya, we can also say like that. But here we just use Nirodha. Again, we have to introduce detailed method of Udayabhaya Jnana. Actually, we can find many explanations in Patisambhidamagga, also in Visuddhimagga. So we can also use Paudaya meditation manual. We also have Nibbana Gamini Paripada, very big volume, written by Paul Serra. Okay, here we just talk about 5 causes arising and perishing. Because of the arising of ignorance, avijja, there is a rising of materiality, seeing that rupas arises due to the cause. Meditator contemplates the arising of material aggregate. Okay, here in this case, for example, in the rebirth linking mind moment, at the moment there will be only Kammaja-rupa, Kama produce materialities. Then they will arise because of avijja or the past lives. Similarly, because of arising of craving, tanha, in the past lives, we also have Kammaja-rupas in the rebirth linking moment. Because of arising of clinging, upadana, the Kammaja-rupa arise in the rebirth linking mind moment. Because of arising of formation, sankhara, wholesome sankhara or unwholesome sankhara, there's a Kama Buruju materialities in rebirth linking mind moment. Because of the arising of Kama, there's also the arising of Kama Buruju materialities in the near-death moment, in the rebirth linking mind moment. Then not only that, we also have present causes. Because of arising of nutriment Buruju materiality arise. So these are the nature of arising of materiality. We have to see it. There's a detailed method. Okay, if we say easier way, we have to know rupas in the breathing moment. We also have to know their causes. The first 5 causes will be for Kammaja-rupas in breathing moment. But in poverty, after rebirth linking mind moments, we have many other mind moments. From that time on, there can be other rupas. For example, produced by mind produced materiality will arise. There will be additional causes. But here I will not list out all the causes because it will be too messy. I just give only short and easier way to understand. Not all of listeners here are advanced meditator, right? That's why I have to think about your learning. So we also have to know, after discerning cause and effect relationship and their arising, we also have to discern This is the nature, the natural arising of materialities. We have to see it. That is due to arising of these causes, the arising of material aggregates is completed. That means there are many other causes. For example, because of temperature produce materiality arise. Because of mind produce materiality arise. We can also do like this. Okay, this is for rupa. Again, we also have to talk about cessation. Previous one is upada. Now we also have to talk about vaya, cessation or perishing. Because of cessation of ignorance, there is a cessation of materialities. It will be the same process as we have talked about it in the arising stage, only change into cessation stage. That is why we have already mentioned we have to know momentary arising and perishing. So arising stage, cause. Perishing stage also cause. That means we can say cause arising and perishing. The cause also arise, the effect also arise. The cause also cease, the effect also cease. We have to know cause relationship. We also have to know they are arising and perishing. So because of cessation of ignorance avijja, there is cessation of materiality, seeing that rupa cease due to its cause. The yogi contemplates the dissolutions of material aggregate. So too, because of arising of craving, material aggregate in, we can say especially Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi where cease. Because of cessation of clinging, Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi where cease. Because of cessation of formations, Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi where cease. Because of cessation of karma, Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi where cease. These are 5 past causes. They also perish. The present effect also perish. Then we also have the next part, because of the cessation of nutriment. Nutriment brought to materiality cease. Though that means not only that, here I just talk about the very beginning of life, right? Similarly, because of rising of temperature, because of rising of mind, there can be temperature brought to materialities, mind brought to materialities. Because at the same tense. The cessation of materiality is seen. So we also have to understand the cessation. Very easy. That is due to the cessation of these causes, the cessation of rupa aggregates is understood. So here I just elaborate material aggregates, arising stage and perishing stage. We can say samudaya dhammanubhasi, also vaya dhammanubhasi, 2. Then again, we also have to talk about mental aggregate. Because of the arising of ignorance, there is the arising of feeling, vedana. For example, in the rebellion mind moment. Seeing that feeling arise due to its cause, the meditator contemplates the arising of the feeling aggregate. Then similarly, because of arising of craving, feeling aggregates and rebellion mind moment arise. Because of arising of clinging, feeling aggregates and rebellion mind moment arise. Because of arising of formations, the feeling aggregates and rebellion mind moment arise. Because of arising of karma, the feeling aggregates that arise and rebellion mind moment arises. These are past causes, also present effect. Because rebellion mind moment is this very life, in the very beginning of our life. Now we also have present causes. Because of arising of contact, phassa, feeling aggregate and rebellion mind moment arise. I will repeat the same topic about contact, phassa. There's the object, There's also the base. There's also consciousness. When they arise by accident, then there will be contact phassa. That means phassa will contact between object, base, and mind. 7. The nature arising of feeling is seen. Okay, this is the way we have to contemplate. So this is the due to presence of these causes, the arising of feeling aggregate is completed. This is just talking about Vivaldic mind moment. So only one mind moment. Actually, there are many other mind moments. They are in stage. Also, we have to know different causes. Then we also have to know Purification state again. We can go to next one. Just as meditator contemplates the arising and passing away of aggregates of feeling, likewise contemplates arising and dissolution of aggregates of perception, the aggregate of formations, the aggregate of consciousness. Okay, this is also similar, but a few things different. Okay, now here we have to talk about detailed method. But the difference here is only manner of observation. Okay, this is it. The next one. Okay, what made them what differs? The next slide, the next one. The next one. Okay, what differs here is only the manner of observation. In the contemplation of the aggregates of consciousness, the distinction lies in referencing the conditions of context and in saying, because arising of nama-rupa, materialities, there's arising of vijnana. Vijnana means conscious aggregates. Only that thing will be different. Here, because of dissolutions of nama-rupa, there's also dissolutions of vijnana. So present way will be the same. So as one progresses along this path insight, we may encounter impurity of insight. Okay, before talking about insight, we can also understand passing away. We can say momentary passing away. As I have mentioned, arising stage of feeling aggregate, we can also understand the say, passing away or cessation of feeling aggregate, perception aggregate, consciousness aggregate, formation aggregate. Only a few things will be different. So similarly, in the Bhavanga mind moments or in our daily life, whenever we have nama rupas, they are written and embedded. We can also contemplate all these types of causes arising and causes perishing. When we say causes arising, this is Samudaya Dhammanubhasi. When we are descending only perishing or passing away, we can say Vaya Dhammanubhasi. Because of combined together. Later we have to talk about this. Because of arising of avijja, Kamaccha-rupa arise. Because of passing away of avijja, Kamaccha-rupa perish. Avijja also anicca, Kamaccha-rupa also anicca, like this. Because of contemplate anicca dukkha anatta in the future. Okay, now when we can practice all these insight knowledge very well, as long as we are practicing righteously, or as long as we are doing well, we can encounter impurity of insight. Okay, now we will introduce impurity of insight. So why they are called impurity? We can misunderstand one of these or any of them as part and fruition knowledge. That's why they are called impurity of insight. Okay, we can start talking about impurity, abhasa, illumination. So illumination means brightness. Then you may have many questions about this. Even you are practicing anapanasati, you can see the lights. Why? What I talk about impurity of insight as a brightness. Although we can see in very basic level, although we haven't attained very high insight knowledge. Of course, here all of us will be brighter than before. So we can see brightness in Anapana or in jhana. We can also see the sun in Namarupa. We can also see brightness in the sun in Namarupa, but at the time, not so bright. But here, when we can practice Uddiyabhaya Jnana, the brightness will be very strong. Then we can best understand, I have seen or I have attained the fruition knowledge. This is called Obasa. So whenever we see this kind of Obasa, brightness, don't follow it. We have to contemplate Obasa as anicca, dukkha, anatta. For example, we have to know the nature of brightness or illumination. Illumination means we have mind virtue materialities. When our mind become very pure, then the color of mind virtue materiality become pure. Then, as effects, there can be very bright light. So there's also temperature virtue materialities in every single consciousness. They become also brighter. That's when the brightness becomes stronger and stronger. If we can know all the brightness as rupas, also, if we can contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta, we can overcome this problem. That's only the solution to overcome this kind of problem. Just keep contemplating as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay. Not only that, there are many other explanations. It will be too wide. That's why I will not elaborate too much in detail about brightness, right? If we say briefly, there will be mind virtue materialities. Then mind become pure, mind virtue materiality become pure and bright. In that mind virtue materialities, there's also temperature. It also can produce new generation. So in that new generation also, there can be brightness. That's why it becomes brighter and brighter. This is the nature of Obasa, illumination. Then again, piti, rapture. Of course, this is also very common in our practice. But we can see rapture even in Anapanasati. Even we can experience rapture in Anapanasati. Why it doesn't mention here again? So it will be the same. In the Anapanasati, it will be normal, not so strong. But at the time or at the moment of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, it becomes very strong, very powerful. That is why we can also misunderstand that is a part of fruition knowledge. Then if we can contemplate all rapture as anicca, dukkha, anatta again, of course, we can also overcome this problem. Passaddhi, tranquility. This is also very common. We can also experience tranquility before we attain jhana. Even in Anapanasati, even before we see the nimitta, we can also experience passaddhi. Why the Buddha repeated this one as an impurity? So at the moment of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, it becomes very strong. We can also misunderstand as part of fruition knowledge. That is why Buddha also used this one as impurity. So not only that, when we have very strong passaddhi, no more uddaca, no more restlessness. Also, no more tinamya, no more sloth and torpor. The mind also become very flexible. No more mana, arrogance, or stubborn, or any gross defilements. So we can also say, by the power of insight knowledge, all the defilements also subside. Then we have very strong tranquility. This is called passaddhi. Then we also have many other explanations about the practice. Okay, now we have to talk about 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐺, faith. So that means when you study Viddhamma, 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐺 means decision, right? But here, why we translate as a faith? We have one Pali word, Saddha 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐺. Saddha 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐺 means determined by faith or determined faith. So it becomes very strong confidence. Then we can also subtract the parameters by the power of the Saddha. Then we can also misunderstand, right? This is the pattern function knowledge because we have very strong faith in triple gems. We have very strong faith in Dhamma because we have new experiences. Okay, let alone Uddhaya Jnana, even in your normal practice. When you start experiencing new things, you may be excited. This is the one thing. Another thing is you may have a stronger confidence. This is the normal for every practitioner. Now this is a Bhagaha energy. We can also see Bhagaha as Vidya or effort. So at that time, the energy or effort is balancing, neither too strong nor too weak. More natural effort, more balancing effort. So that is why no more laziness, also no more sluggishness. At the same time, no more restlessness also, because when we have very strong effort, there will be restlessness, right? No more restlessness, no more laziness. That is why Bhagaha is also one of the impurity. We can think, oh, I have a, you can balance very well. You may think, I have attained path and future knowledge. Then not only that, we have jnana, knowledge, or insight knowledge. So at the time, insight knowledge became very, very strong. So you can also understand similar explanation, right? The insight knowledge become very strong means you can see Namarupa very clearly. So you can also see cause and arising and variation very clearly. Okay, so we have already talked about Udaya and Vaya, right? Udaya means cause and arising, Vaya means cause and variation. Udaya Vaya, both cause and arising and variation. You can also understand Anatokanatta very clearly. That's why it's one simile they are mentioned. Like a Vajira Uda means the diamond weapon of the 𝐾𝐻𝐿. When you throw that weapon, then it's very strong, right? It will cut everything on the way. What about the touch? Similarly, your knowledge can touch Namarupa very clearly. You can also, your knowledge can touch Anicca Dukkha Anatta very clearly. Very pure insight knowledge. That is why people also can think this is a Maggaphala. Another one is a Upatthana, mindfulness, sati. So this is also very common in our practice. Without mindfulness, without awareness, we cannot see the light. We cannot see nimitta. We cannot attain jhana also. Even we have already talked about it many times. Mindfulness is always needed. So here in the case of impurity, the mindfulness became very strong. That's why the mind can mark Anicca Dukkha Anatta very firmly, very strongly, with stability, and shaken by anything. Not only that, because of very strong mindfulness, the normal hindrances, so very stable insight knowledge. There's other one simile that I mentioned. It's like a Mount Meru, unshaken by anything. So similarly, Awareness is unshaken by anything. They can firmly know anicca, dukkha, anatta, nama, rupa. That's why we can also misunderstand. That is it, path and fruition knowledge. Otherwise, ubbeka. Okay, here we have to talk about ubbeka again. We have already talked about ubbeka many times. Then, for your information, for example, ubbeka meditation. This is also one of the ubbeka. There's a ubbeka sambhojjhanga. This is also ubbeka. We also have ubbeka feeling, another ubbeka. Then we also have jhanubbeka in the third jhana. Now here, in the case of ubbeka, it means vipassanubbeka. Very strong equanimity. We can also say another Pali word, avajjanubbeka. Avajjana means advaita mind. So that means advaita mind, so they mean equanimity. So equanimity become very strong in the mental process. Okay, we can also understand that according to 32 mental factors, there's also Tattara Maccata Citisika. So Tattara Maccata Citisika become very strong and very powerful. That is why in advaita mind also very stable, very fun, very strong. That is why when we are contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta, we can know very clearly, very sharp and very strong. That is why people also can misunderstand, oh, I have attained Maggaphala. And this is also one of the things we have to understand. Okay, the last one, Nikanti. Of course, this is very important. Also, the most problematic factors here. Nikanti means attachment. So we also have attachment to vipassana. When we have very strong insight knowledge, we also have attachment to vipassana. That is why when we have attachment to vipassana also, it can be obstacle. That is why we have to contemplate insight knowledge also as anicca, dukkha, anatta. We may have less attachment to vipassana, or we may overcome attachment to vipassana. This is also one of the things. Another thing is Nikanti also can be attachment to the light, attachment to rapture, attachment to equanimity, tranquility, faith, energy. It can be any kind of attachment to any of previous impurity. That is why this is also very problematic impurity in the insight knowledge. So when we can overcome all these types of impurity, there will be the next level. We can also understand as the next types of insight knowledge. Then we also have some explanation of impurity. So, okay, we can go to the next one. They're talking about story. This is the last part of today's Dhamma talk. So the first one is among the 2 elder monks residing in the devil hall, devil wards dwelling in Titala mountain. One could see 5 kinds of lotuses above the lion throne in the shrine, even on the pitch dark light, with 4 characteristics due to the light of insight. The other elder could see fish and turtles within 1 yojana in the great ocean. You can also imagine how strong their insight knowledge. Even they could see turtle and fishes, fish and turtles within 1 yojana. Also in the great ocean. Okay, this one's written in Sri Lanka. That's why you can also imagine Sri Lanka is a small island, so that means anywhere there can be ocean, right? So that means ocean, that means compared to like Myanmar, like Myanmar, we are very far from ocean. But for Singapore, you are very easy to see the ocean, right? Because Singapore is a small island. Okay, anyway, that means their light is very strong. Their insight knowledge is also very sharp and very powerful. That's why they could see all the things clearly. See, you can also see here lotus. You can also see the fish and turtles. Now we have another one. Here, Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, when encountering the integrity of insight, believes himself to be an arhat. His disciples, Dhammadinatthira, knowing his teacher's condition, ask questions that only arhat could answer, and then asked him to create an elephant. Okay, see one thing. He asked many questions to his teacher, because his teacher is also very knowledgeable. He's also a great Pali teacher. That's why, although he asked very difficult questions, his teacher could answer very easily. After that, he also had psychic power. That's why Venerable Dhammadina asked his teacher, Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, to create an elephant. And when he asked to create the appearance of elephant attacking, the elder became afraid, realizing he was not yet an arhat. Okay, here I should elaborate a few more. So when the elephant came to attack him, although he created the elephant, he's scared. That means even he hadn't attained Anagami path and fruition knowledge. When he had attained Anagami path and fruition knowledge, he may not have any any fear of anything, because Anagami Meggaphala will eradicate dosa. Then the teacher is also humble. He also realizes very humble. Then he also requests his student, Venerable Dhammadina. Okay, Dhammadina, my dear student, you should be my refuge. Then also, the student also came for this purpose. He just wanted to make his teacher to attain arhatship. That's why he kept instruction. Now, following Dhammadina's instruction or guidance, he practiced further. After that 3 steps of walking meditation, he became an arhat. That means he was obstructed by impurity. Many years, he thought he had attained when he was newly ordained. But it's not true. Now he became very senior. His student came and helped him. He realized he hadn't attained any path of fruition knowledge. Then he could practice very well. He could attain within a few steps. Here we say just 3 steps of walking meditation. So that means even very knowledgeable bhikkhus could have this kind of impurity. Okay, now we have to move the last slide for today's Dhamma talk. This stage combining Samasana Jnana, the next one, and initial part of Uddiyabhaya Jnana is called Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, purifications of knowledge and vision of what is a path and non-path. So we have already talked about types of purifications in the past. So here Samasana Jnana. So today we just talk about the last part of Samasana Jnana. Then there are also mentioned many different types of contemplation, such as Anicca Dukkha Anatta, also Asubha, also Bodhito, Rupasadaka, and we also already mentioned 18. Yes, we can say Mahavipassana. So briefly, Samasana Jnana will cover until we have Rupasadaka and Arupasadaka. After that, we also have to talk about initial Uddiyabhaya Jnana. Okay, here, initial part of Uddiyabhaya Jnana means you can understand as a Tinta Vipassana, Karuna Vipassana. That means not yet mature. That kind of condition is called initial Uddiyabhaya Jnana. They are also called Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, among the 7 purifications. So we have already talked about Sila Visuddhi, purifications of morality, number 1. Number 2, Chitta Visuddhi, purifications of consciousness of mind, attaining jhana, or as a concentration. Ditthi Visuddhi, number 3, the purifications of view, discerning nama rupas. 3, Kankha Visuddhi, the purifications of overcoming doubt, that also discerning cause-effect relationship, the dependent origination, also discerning past lives, and present cause-effect relationship, present and future relationship. After that, we talk about now Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, number 5. This one is the 5th purification. So we have to purify in step by steps. They are called, all the purification are also called the order of practice. Without number 1, we're gonna go to number 2. Without number 2, we're gonna go to number 3. Without number 3, we cannot go to number 4. Without number 4, we're gonna go to number 5. Now we are talking about number 5. Then without number 5, we're gonna go to number 6. The next topic will be about number 6, the next purification. May you all be able to practice 3 trainings, and may you all be able to realize final cessation and no suffering.
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Sayadaw. Sayadaw, may we proceed to the Q&A session?
Okay, you can start. Okay.
Dear participants, you may send your questions to Zoom chat, or you may raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay. Sayadaw, we will first read the questions sent in by the participants and also take questions from the floor. Wandami Sayadaw, in recent years, meditators practicing Vipassana stage in Pa'au Center are reporting they attained peaceful stage. Could Sayadaw please explain if the peaceful stage is related to the 18 great insights explained today? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
The peaceful stage can be many different conditions, right? For example, if we say cessation is we call nibbana. The peaceful state can be any part of insight knowledge, right? We can say peaceful stage. Next one.
Question 2. Wandami Sayadaw, how might a meditator recognize that these great insights are arising in their own practice? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
For about the first part, anicca nubbati, anicca nubbasana, dukkha nubbasana, that kind of things, right? This is very clear. In the very beginning of discerning, contemplating, you have to know the one. Similarly, animita, abanhita, sunyata, nubbasana, also very clear, right? They also, we can say, synonym of anicca, dukkha, anatta. They are very clear. For other things, for example, like Arinava nubbasana, we Arinava jnana in the future. The higher knowledge. According to different stage or different step of practice, there can be many different insight knowledge, different experiences. For example, if we say Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi, then you have to know Maggāmaggañāṇa. You have to discern all the aggregates as anicca, dukkha, anatta in Maggāmaggañāṇa, right? So Arinava jnana also the same. There's a special method for it. That's why you have to move one stage to another stage. If you can do successfully in the previous stage, you can recognize practically. Next one.
Question 3. Wandami Sayadaw, does Samucceda Nirodha occur only once at the arising of the Noble Path, while the Patipassadi Nirodha can occur repeatedly whenever one enters fruition? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Actually, although you don't enter fruition knowledge, the fruition attainment, right? After arising of other knowledge, fruition knowledge will arise naturally. At that time, also you can say Patipassadi Nirodha. Okay. Next one.
May the interpreter Sayadaw.
你记下了，为什么这个阶段被称为道非道之间清净？道与非道是什么意思？萨度萨度萨度。
Okay. Okay. Magga means path. Here that means path means it doesn't mean sorry, it doesn't mean Maggaphala, right? It doesn't mean say Sarabana Sakara Naga means not that kind of Magga. Yeah, Magga means the path, the practicing path. Amagga means known path. Because of pure impurity, we can think this is non-Magga. We can think this is the Magga. That means although we haven't attained path and fruition knowledge, we can misunderstand as a path and fruition knowledge. So if we can practice all these methods, we can overcome that kind of impurity. That's what we are called Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi. If we can overcome impurity, sure we can know these are not the paths. We have to overcome, after overcoming, we can know the one, right? That's what they are called Maggāmaggañāṇadassanavisuddhi. We can also know both. This is the right path, this is the wrong path at the same times. Okay, next one.
Vandami Sayadaw. Why dosa anger is not asava? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. So, in the case of asava, right? This means long time fermented. Those are only okay. For example, if you have habit of dosa, maybe you may have short temper or something, right? In this kind of case, you can say asava. I mean, you have a long time habit. But mostly dosa arise only occasional. Occasionally, when we see something undesirable, dosa arise, right? What about Loba? Easier. Titi, very easy. Moha, easiest one. That's why they are called asava. Dosa is just occasion, though we don't call asava. The next one.
Question 6, Vandami Sayadaw. Which of these 10 impurities of insight might be more subtle and harder to detect, and why? How to overcome these impurities? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, the main thing is actually Nikanti, the last one, right? This is we can also say the strongest. Then we can have attachment to any of previous 9 also I have already mentioned there, right? That's why when we have Vipassana Nikanti, very difficult to overcome because we also like that kind of things. Practically, that alone Nikanti to insight knowledges. When you experience very pleasant feeling, focus on anapanasati, your mind will naturally go to that kind of pleasant feeling. Like this kind of pleasant feeling, right? Whenever your mind follows pleasant feeling or like tranquility or rapture or joy, you get lost. That's why Nikanti is the most sensitive, most serious, or the most subtle. Okay, very difficult to overcome also.
Interpreter.
礼敬西亚多，大龙长老在被纠正后，为什么能如此迅速的证得阿罗汉果？萨度萨度萨度。
Okay, it depends on the. Okay, can you hear me? Can you say? Okay, it depends on how he was practicing recent year, right? I mean, although he has impurity of insight knowledge, he may have habit of practicing vipassana very long time. So one more thing, you can also imagine he doesn't have defilements many years. If he had defilement, he may recognize he is not yet arhat. So now when see an elephant going to attack him, he realizes he has defilement. Okay, that means you can also imagine a long time he does not have defilements. His mind is mostly pure. That's why it's easy for him to attain path and fruition knowledge. Now that is the guidance. It doesn't mention how his student guide him. It doesn't mention how is his question. It just mentioned very few thoughts in this story, right? For example, which ingredient is it blocking his practice? We cannot know, right? But he may answer to his students. His students also may know how to practice, that he guide him properly, easily, because he could attain by the fruition knowledge. There can be two different conditions. The first one is he himself is very pure. That was the guidance. Okay? That's why he could attain by the fruition knowledge very easily and smoothly.
Question 8. Vandami Siado. Theravada countries like Myanmar determine 10th July is Vasa Day, but other countries like Vietnam determine 10th August 2025 as Vasa Day. The explanation is according to their own calendar. This year has one extra month, 2 months of June. So this breaks Vinaya of Bhikkhu of determination of Vasa Day. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
In this case, it depends on their culture. We cannot say it's a breaking Vasa, right? So actually 3 years one time, we have additional months. Maybe this is their own calendar. That's why in this case, we're gonna say breaking Vasa. This is their culture, their tradition. Even sometimes Thailand and Myanmar, we have different Patimokha Day, right? It doesn't mean we break Vinaya. Even Sri Lanka and Myanmar, we have different Patimokha Day. This is okay, no problem.
Are there any more questions? Dear Siado, there's no more questions. Shall we proceed to close today's session? Sadhu, 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 Siado. Thank you very much for your teachings today. And thank you, our interpreter Bantes, for the translation. May we invite Siado to lead us in making aspiration and sharing of merits.
Ittavadacha ammehi sambadam punya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe saddha numodandu sabba sambati siddhya idhamme ñatinam hotu sukhita hontu ñadayo idhamme ñatinam hotu Sukhita hontu ñadayo idhamme ñatinam hotu Sukhita hontu ñadayo idhamme punyam asavakkhaya vaham hotu idhamme punyam nibbanassa paccaya hotu mama punyabhagam sabba saddhanam bhajami te sabbe me samam Punyabhagam Labantu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Siado, and everyone for your time and participation. Till we meet again next Saturday, may all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.